Hello, and thanks for checking out this video. My name is Zach, and I'm a lifelong reader and lover of all things science fiction, fantasy, comics, manga, personal development, and everything in between. And today I'm sharing my thoughts and a quick review of Yume Kitasei's The Stardust Grail. This book I saw at the end of last year, 2024, when it was shortlisted on a couple best of the year science fiction novels, and I don't know where I saw it exactly. I think it was honestly an Instagram post either by her publisher or the author herself somehow that they were promoting it. And I just checked it out and put my hold in, and lo and behold, it's available on Libby through my local library. And I read it really fast in less than a week. So I finished it last week, and I just wanted to share some thoughts and opinions on what I liked, didn't like about the book. It's kind of mixed feelings because at the one hand, I did like it. On the other hand, maybe I didn't so much. So yeah, like any good book, there's pros and cons, and there's some interesting ideas here. And a little bit of stumbling at the end, I think, which kind of dragged me down. But just to start with the positives on a positive note. Overall, the book is really an interesting premise. That's why I picked it up. It's sold as a space heist novel. And digging the reviews now afterwards, I see that common sentiment that it's not necessarily a heist novel. And having read it, I kind of agree with that the heist, and this is what my negatives are, is that the heist kind of happens right around the middle of the book. And then the second half of the book, it has a weird, trying to wrap up some ideas and trying to keep advancing the plot. And it was a little bit messy at the end, and that's what kind of dragged me down. But the first half of the book, so the whole book itself, it's like an alternate future because it's Earth. It takes place on an alternate Earth where in our or their world that portals have opened up, these kind of wormholes that have connected the entire galaxy. So we've mastered space travel, but only through warp holes and portals. And then the kicker, kind of semi-spoilery, is the portals are starting to disappear. So we're kind of into this world that's based in Earth. Our main character, she's half American, half Japanese, or she's a Japanese American, I guess. I don't know if she's maybe I'm misremembering already, but she grows up in this colony world, and we kind of learn this backstory and this world building about this future Earth. And the story starts with our character Maya at Princeton. So it's in New Jersey. It's very set in reality. And she's like a researcher on ancient cultures. And as the book progresses, she's, of course, drawn into this kind of one last job, one last heist. And at that point, I actually was very hesitant to keep going because this reminded me a bit of The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, which is this also came highly recommended last year. One more heist, get the band back together, but it's on the seas and it's a little more fantastical, whereas this is in space and a little more science fiction-y fantasy. But it's not really get the band back together, even though it does. She kind of has that found friends and found family, I guess, the trope where she forms a core group around her, but it's very small, so it's not really like the big band of characters like Amina al-Sarafi. But anyways, the whole heist aspect was, reading the backs of the book and DNFing on Amina that kind of turned me off a bit, but I pushed through and kept going because the world was cool. So I like the idea that she's scholarly, so it has kind of that dark academia vibes at the beginning where she's interacting with her professors and kind of rebelling against the system because she's an outcast and her paper's not really done yet. She's having trouble finishing her PhD. And yeah, that's kind of the interesting academic side. But then she blasts off and gets sucked into the actual adventure, and the plot kind of kicks off a little bit more. The next, iteration of the plot happens, and it moves the story forward. And then they're in space, and then we start learning about, more about this backstory in the world and Uncle, who is this thing, and that's a little threw me off a bit on the audiobook. So if you read the audiobook, the audio author pronounces it Uncle, but I don't know if it's Uncle, just a weird Uncle, but it's a friendro, and it is the wrong word because the book uses the pronouns z, or them. And it was very disoriented. I couldn't tell at the beginning whether the Uncle character was it's trying to be, obviously, because it's non-sexual. It's an alien, so it doesn't have a gender, male or female. So it uses the z, zither, them pronouns. And yeah, it just threw me off a bit. I'm sure others have had that, but it was very jarring that I thought, are they describing the alien language? But no, once it kind of clicked that, oh, it's instead of saying he, him, she, her, because it's an alien, they don't want to say it either because it's not really an it. It's a thing. It's a living sentient being that they give it the z, zither, them kind of zer pronouns. But yeah, it was very confusing. But I'm going to just stick with like an it for this review just because it's just easier for me to butcher the pronouns. But anyways, on the friend row thing, Uncle is a really cool character because there's just so much you don't know. So that's kind of that, you know, you have your main character who's grounded in reality, and we kind of experience the world through Maya because she has that kind of human perspective. But then she's paired with Uncle, who has the friend row perspective of an alien species, and it does eventually get to how they became friends, and it's kind of cute, like a little meet cute thing when they're on this exploration together. But yeah, you're kind of, I at least was drawn into the world of what is going on, kind of what are the rules of the world, what's happening, what are the friend row, how did we get here, what's causing the holes to the black holes disappear, how is it all connected. So it was very interesting. And then we're kind of given, of course, like a plot point of this is how we're going to fix the holes, but you have to go steal it, so let's go here and steal it. And then that's halfway through the book, and then yeah, it kind of falls apart a little bit at the end. I feel like the author was maybe trying to wrap things up, but there was a lot of things still unsaid, you know, and you can't just end with them stealing the Stardust Grail and getting that back because there is so much more going on. It's kind of so complex. But I felt it just didn't really flow well after that final thing. And then the next couple chapters to the ending was just kind of one obstacle after the other. And it was like plot point to plot point to they succeed, then they're setback, succeed, setback. And I guess it felt a little more mechanical as opposed to like maybe I'm just biased by reading other fantasy authors right now, like Wheel of Time, those authors that have kind of like a more interconnected and like, yeah, there's kind of chess pieces at play that are eventually advancing the story, but this didn't feel like obstacle resolution, like so programmatic. It just felt more organic in other novels, and this felt a little more like the author was, you kind of as a reader, maybe I could understand what kind of the author was doing that was giving her characters something to overcome to get to the next point, then they'll have a setback. So didn't feel quite so organic, but the book is saved by it just being a really cool world. So the ideas in here are great. The characters are actually pretty interesting. I like, you know, the main cast of characters. Sure, there it's not a 40, 60 hour fantasy novel where we spend forever with our characters. Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time, looking at you. Not that it's a bad thing, but it is a little more condensed than because it's a single self-contained novel, which I also do appreciate so much that this is a well done condensed story that there is an actual ending. Unlike some of these fantasy novels that I read, I feel like they're just never going to end because there's just so much world to tell. But yeah, so I did enjoy some of those aspects. The pacing at the end was a little here and there. I liked the world building at the beginning more. And all in all, it was like an okay book. It was, definitely slightly more the middle. It was like a 3.5 out of 5. Not like horrible. It's not something I regret reading. I enjoyed my time with the characters, but towards like the 70% mark, I was like, all right, let's get it done. What else is going to happen now? Where are we going with the story? So the ending kind of did drag me down a bit from being quite so, a good novel. It didn't really stick the landing, but it was still a good time. And I still enjoyed my time with the characters and within the world that the author, Kitasei, has created. I think it's a really interesting world. And I think she's an interesting writer. I think this is one of her second or third novel, so she's a new writer coming into her own, and I think she's gonna the world is interesting, and I can see the ideas, the structure's there, just needs to maybe polish up on the third or fourth novel, whatever she has next. So thanks for listening and watching this video of my review of Yume Kitasei's The Stardust Grail. So have a great day.